Blessings, and welcome to EARTHEART Radio. Finally beginning to awaken from the illusion of separateness and broadcasting live from the KSKQ studios in beautiful Ashland, Oregon. Here's your host, Shankara Das.
AKA Derek Moody, for those of you who feel funny saying things like Das. Welcome to the EARTHEART Radio Show. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. And of course, it is another Sunday in the Rogue Valley of Southern Oregon. The show began back in August of 2019, and today we will be doing our last show until we do find a new home for KSKQ Radio. I hope we do find a new location soon, and I hope you'll rejoin us when we make our triumphant return to the airwaves. Today, as always, you'll hear harmonious music and positive news, and I'll spotlight a saint per our weekly tradition. If you'd like to show your appreciation for KSKQ Community Radio, please surf over to kskq.org, and whether it's small or large, our gratitude is sincere. Today, my guest is a mother of 6, and she'll explain more about that. She's co-founder, along with her husband, of Emerge Hot Yoga in Ashland. She's a vegan and on the path of healthy eating. I invited her on the show because I myself was a vegetarian for years and am getting prepared to get back to a much healthier path of eating myself. So this will be an education for not only you, dear listener, but me as well. So it's a little selfish, but hey, our mutual friend and my guest from last week's show, Nicole Brady, referred me to DeAnna. Please welcome DeAnna Larkins to the EARTHEART Radio Show. Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You said you were like 3 minutes away. I was like, awesome.
Yeah.
I feel guilty when guests have to drive from like Shasta or somewhere. I'm like, oh, we can do it by the phone if you want to.
Right. I know. I could have walked here.
Well, I was asking Nicole Brady recently. I said, I want to do a show about like healthy eating, not necessarily veganism, but I guess so. Isn't that like the healthiest path to be a vegan compared to, say, vegetarian?
Right. Well, that's a loaded question. And I think that I try to refrain from labels just because it's it can turn people off that are so far from that path.
It's limiting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, if I had to put it into, a label, I would say, veganism, definitely vegetarianism. For me, raw foodism is actually, I try again not to call it that, but, eating simple foods, eating whole foods, trying not to drench things in sauces and salt and, all the different things that make it taste good. Because really food at its essence is, it's part of what all the gurus did to attain enlightenment. It's part of the path to enlightenment. Eating foods that have prana in them, or even some gurus on the path to breatharianism. Yeah. So it's, really being able to consciously breathe while you're eating. A lot of us think it's just about the food that you eat. It should be healthier. You could eat the best food on the planet, but if you're like scarfing down your kale chips and you're like gulping, and you're gulping down your green juice, then how present are you? How conscious are you feeling in your body when you're receiving this energy? And so it's an energetic exchange. It's kind of like, having intimacy with your lover or your partner, And
it's respecting your temple.
It's giving your kingdom what it deserves. And it's also finding grace and finding joy and finding peace and serenity in the moment. So it's not like a rush to the finish line, which I think for most people, especially in our country, food is sort of in between what we're doing. We're just, we're scarfing our food because we're so busy or we have so much to do. And so, really when we slow down our breath, when we slow down and are able to eat, really healthy foods, then we're able to see life in a much slower pace. And as much as that may be boring to like city folks, that's really the path. The path of least resistance is not a path of rushing. A lot of people in I know the Christian belief, which I like to listen to everything, and I like to hear what is true and share that. And a lot of the Christian path, they say that the devil is in rushing, and so why rush through our eating process, you know?
You nailed it too. We are in such a fast food and like do it now and rush society that we do tend to push our eating habits, to the back burner instead of to the front burner where they should be. Very good point.
Could be.
Could I get you to talk a little closer to the mic?
Yeah.
There you go. That sounds much better. I should have explained that to you before you started talking.
Thank you.
But yeah, the way you put everything is making so much sense to me. It's obvious that you know what you're talking about. The other day, DeAnna sent me some awesome, lovely photos over Messenger of like her kids and some of the foods that she serves at home. And some of the colors of these drinks were like making me like, my mouth was watering. It was like bright purple and bright green smoothie drinks that look so healthy. And I'm like, that's how I want to eat.
Yeah.
So like, how long have you been on this path and how did you find this path?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I would love for mamas, I would love to share, some of the foods that my kids eat that they've gotten used to that they actually really love.
That's a great idea for people listening. That'd be a great tip.
Yeah. So I was a medical intuitive, that's another label, but I was an intuitive since the age of 3. My father's a doctor, and I was helping him with his patients. So he'd sit down and work with them and do cardiac stuff. And I would just communicate in a whisper to my dad and tell him, this person is sad because their partner just died. And then all of a sudden he would tell them that I had something to say. And then that would turn into me sharing it. And then they would be crying. And then,
wow, at the age of 3.
Between like 3 and 6 was when it was really prominent. And then I got really confident that I have a skill that I thought everyone had, but really everyone has a different skill. And I didn't understand that. And so along my path, I've met so many amazing teachers, so many amazing beings, Native American shaman teachers that I lived with on the reservation in New Mexico, teachers that are saints in my eyes. And they were able to help me connect the dots as I got older into my spiritual path.
So you were learning healthy eating as you went along, slowly but surely?
Yeah, so it started with my mother. She passed on when I was 18 years old.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. And she's, she was my greatest inspiration, and she died from breast cancer. Oh. But at that age, I was also feeling, years before she passed, I would constantly feel that was going to happen. I could just feel the future coming to that. And I felt that what was killing her was actually not her food, but it was the fear that was driving her to eat all sorts of things, And so she had a lot of fear that her and my father wouldn't end up together, which was true. They didn't. And that led her to just feeling a lot of self-harm, a lot of fear. And then that turned into her getting sick. And so when she passed on, I was 18. And it was one of the most challenging moments in my life, probably. Besides childbirth. I'm just joking.
I'm sure it's probably half true though.
But it was a beautiful moment. As soon as she passed on, my deeper spiritual path really began. So, I knew I was gifted, but when she died, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was here for. I had no clue what I was going to do. I told her that I would be okay, which I knew that was going to be true.
Were you able to handle grief pretty healthily or no?
Well, that's a good question. So that led to 7 years after she passed. Each year after she passed for 7 years in a row, my back pain got worse and worse and worse. So went to every healer, every person I could think of, started the path of eating vegetarianism. And that slowly led into the path of me meeting people who were in the raw food lifestyle. So Lou Corona is my main teacher. He studied from many gurus and many teachers, and he's kind of brought the teachings into the Western world and really raised consciousness with the vibration of food and, what that does to your life, how you can see more clearly when you're eating things that are clearly better for you, and how the reflection of the food, the mind, the emotions, the body, how they're so connected. And so,
I love how you're. I had no idea, and I had a little idea, but I didn't have a big idea that it was such a spiritual topic, and you're really enlightening me on this subject. You know, we all go through life thinking we know so much and this and that, but there's always somebody or something that comes along that makes you're kind of bust your bubble a little bit, makes you go, whoa, I'm learning more now. So thank you. I'm sincerely liking this conversation because I really don't eat really healthily. Coincidentally, we were talking, and you said that your husband's not such a healthy eater like yourself. So I wonder how that works.
Yeah, that's a good question.
How does that work in your household?
I know, because a lot of the time you hear from teachers, you know, if one person does it, you all have to do it or it's not going to work. And I can say that that's actually not true.
That's funny. You're living it. You're living proof.
Right. So
when you say he doesn't eat healthy, do you mean he just doesn't eat as healthy, or do you mean does he go into like Wendy's to grab cheeseburgers?
He's listening to this right now, so
no offense.
He's probably cracking up.
Please, no offense.
He doesn't do fast food. He does organic foods, which is great. But he'll occasionally do a burger. You know, he's pretty much vegetarian, but he'll do chicken or a burger once in a while, probably a couple times a month. But when I met him, it was every single day. So I know that I've been somewhat of a good influence on him.
Yay.
And so what really affected me was when I started doing raw foods. I had a hypothyroidism issue. I had an issue with my thyroid. And I tried everything, and the only thing that really felt right to me was changing my diet. So I went to study with my friend, my teacher, Lou Corona, who you can find him on YouTube. And he was enlightening me on how to make the right green juices, how to make coconut almond milk, how to make coconut almond yogurts, how to really live a life that is clean, serene, and tranquil and peaceful, and how to have faith and trust and experience it daily. Even in a world where that may not be happening all around you, how can you be in this world and really live that lifestyle? And that's kind of bringing us back to your question about my husband. So I followed the diet to a T for 2 years. I was completely raw, vegan, and I felt so good. I did it another 2 years. So for
your thyroid issues were it was what you needed for your thyroid issues?
Completely went away. Yeah, completely went away. I got it tested again. My thyroid was completely fine.
Wow.
And then when I met my husband, I started juicing with him, and we were juicing every day. We would do juice fasting. We would do water fasting, which is something that we're really getting into at the studio now. Is, juicing is so powerful because you think you're hungry a lot of the times, but you're really just hungry. Your body, your kids, your family, everyone's starving for nutrients. We live in a world where our soil is mostly nutrient deficient a lot of the times. So our bodies are nutrient deficient. So if we're eating foods that are dead in nutrients and they don't have enzymes because you're cooking all the enzymes, then your body's still going to be craving things. That's why there's that's probably, well, I know it's a fact in addictions too, with any kind of addictions, and not just drugs, but alcohol, whatever. A lot of folks think that they're craving after they get sober. And I found out through some reading that in fact they were just hungry or thirsty and didn't know that. So they kept using whatever thing they were addicted to, not knowing they just needed to eat a few, healthy meals per day or healthier food, Yeah. So, definitely poor diet can easily lead to other kinds of addictions. Definitely. And even if you have a great diet, it doesn't mean you won't have any other addictions. It just means that you've got one out of the way.
Exactly.
And so, like in the morning, one of the things I do with me and my family, I always make sure everyone drinks water. That's so basic, so easy. And
was it like 16 ounces you're supposed to have, or 32 ounces in the morning, or
as much as you can drink?
Yeah.
As much as you can drink that feels good to you. And then we juice after that. We juice in the morning. We try to juice every day. Sometimes we just juice 3 times a week, but we make enough for a day or 2 at a time.
So you use different vegetables and fruits for juicing, correct?
Yeah. Like usually I like celery and lemon and ginger. Those are some of my favorite. And then the kids like, a little sweeter. So I'll do apples, kale, cilantro. I just, when we go to the aisle where all the vegetables are, we like get excited because we could feel the prana. We could feel the energy of the greens, the vibrations of the foods, the colors, it's just like,
that's awesome.
So good for you.
That is so awesome.
And, a lot of the ancient gurus that have lived well beyond 100 years old, I've got a book called the 21st Century 21st Century Book to Healing, I think it is. Anyways, I'm sure anyone who's listening who knows about books back in the 70s would know that book. And there are pictures of people that are 150 years old, 125 years old, 140 years old. And when they interview these people and ask them what they're eating, they, most of them say that they're fasting, that they're drinking water, or they eat one time a day.
Are these primarily folks in either India or Tibet by chance?
Yes, and Japan and Germany and, other parts of the world, definitely.
But usually not Westerners.
Yeah, us Westerners, I like to say that we're like 2 years old turning 3 in our country.
Some of the more orthodox, like Hindu folks that I've met, literally believe that we shouldn't even try to find spirituality, that we're that far gone. But that always serves to make me feel like I'm going to try harder now.
Right. Well, here's
just give it up, Westerner. No. I'm going to find my thing,
Well, here's a good reflection on that note. Okay. So in India, right, people aren't looking to go, there's no like go to yoga class with a bunch of people doing the same practice. It's not like that.
I know.
They actually are looking for God. They're looking to be enlightened, and they believe that their guru has the enlightenment that they seek. So they are so humble in their nature that they look to the guru as their guru that they will look up to until they attain some level of enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And their guru will say, here's what you do. If your spine is hurting, this part of your spine, okay, you're going to do this every day. And they go home, they do exactly what their guru tells them. So now we Westerners live in a world where we go to a class and everyone does the same thing at the same time. And, it's better than not having yoga.
Oh, for sure.
But, how many people in yoga class, are really searching for, thirsting for spiritual enlightenment? Because that's the whole reason why we do yoga.
And that's the only reason me and my wife have stopped doing yoga, is because we had a spiritual, I'll just say it, we had a more Hindu-based teacher, and I'm totally open to all spiritual trips. I'm not like, I don't ever say I'm one thing or another, because that would separate myself immediately. But we had a Hindu-based teacher, and it was prayer-based and meditation-based, and it felt so awesome. And then they moved out of state, so we are still currently trying to find somebody like that to replace those people. Does that make sense? Yeah.
My husband and I felt like we don't want to be hypocrites and open up a yoga studio and say that we're teaching yoga if we're not on the path to enlightenment. And my husband and I, when we met over 4.5 years ago, we had a spiritual awakening. We were what they consider samadhi. We were in samadhi for 2.5 weeks.
Together. That's interesting.
Most people in town thought that we were on drugs and could not figure out where this was coming from. And a couple people were like following, and they were having experiences. And there's still people, that we work with that are having enlightening experiences. And so not to say that we are enlightened beings and everyone should come to us, but that we are definitely on the path, and that we have reached levels of consciousness that are showing us where that joy really comes from.
And you're together, so like you've increased the energy by you two coming together like that.
Yeah.
Like Sri Ramakrishna always said, like they'd say, what about the harlot or the drunk? You say everyone's of God, master, but you say not to hang out with the folks unless they're like-minded. He says, oh, that's simple. We just salute certain men from a distance. We still realize that they're God too, but if they're living on lower frequencies, we still love them.
Well, there's a picture that exactly says what you're talking about, and it's in the Essene Gospel of Peace. And there's these like Yeshua, right, Jesus, and a few other saints next to him. And they're wearing their cloaks, they're covered, protected in their robes, with over their head. And they're looking down at a group of people that are like naked, taking off their clothes. Like, where do we find happiness? We're so angry. We're so sad. We're distraught. We're confused. We don't know. And then the saints are like up on the cliff just watching them, knowing exactly what the kingdom is.
Yeah.
And so it's not about judgment. Judgment does separate. But discernment is about awareness, and awareness is about understanding. So, my husband and I have never gotten into a fight because we have learned through these spiritual teachings how to communicate from a place of understanding, how to listen from a place of understanding and how to communicate in a way that allows the other person to be heard.
And that's so huge. And so many people are just, in society, just waiting to talk instead of listening, which I hear a lot. I'm a talker, so I, in the past, have had to overcome that problem myself. But I have certainly learned, especially being on the radio, it's a great practice to listen to others talk. I love it,
Yeah.
And so, I just look at everyone that I'm looking at as a god in drag, So, especially females to me, I went through a couple year period where I looked at every woman as divine mother. Like every woman was my mother, whether they were 6 years old or 60. So I did that for a couple of years with the whole celibacy trip, the whole thing. Yeah. And boy, any man that goes through that will definitely look at all women differently from now on. You'll never, ever have a sexist thought again.
Yeah. And that, when my husband and I met, he was, I don't want to bust his cover on the radio, but he was,
what's she gonna say?
He was a little bit of a womanizer, okay? But when we met and he had that experience and we had our awakening together, he would communicate to me, oh my God, I can't believe I used to come in this restaurant and stare at that girl and that girl and that girl. These women are part of God, and everyone in here is, and so the level of respect he began to have, he was so humbled by this energy that just took over our relationship and guided our relationship and guided us forward to where we are, into purpose, into service, into uplifting community, and into purpose. And
that's beautiful.
And, and so, he changed
what's his name?
Yogi J. Larkins. I call him Yogi J.
Way to go, Yogi J. Yeah. His experience mirrors mine. It was the same thing. I come from rock and roll, so the whole womanizing thing and all that. But so I'm really connecting with what you're saying about your husband. That's really cool. I already like this guy a lot.
Yeah. And he's, it's like sometimes you'll see men come in class, in our yoga class, yoga studio, and you'll see them, kind of stare at the women in front of them or the women next to them. And, my husband and I just notice it, and he might say something, just to kind of turn their awareness into what's going on.
Yeah.
But if you can become the witness and the observer of your experience in the moment throughout your practice in yoga, when you're eating life, when you're in yoga class, before you go to bed at night, if you can turn your attention inward, then you can begin to find your true powers, and your true powers lie within. And the reason why the guru is enlightened is because they know it.
Yeah.
They know that power because they've cultivated it. They have enough conviction that is the light of God, that is all they want, that, nothing else can compare. And so, that conviction is what is guiding them and guiding others to want to learn from them.
It's like I always say, willpower is God power.
Yeah.
So I liked what you said about being the witness. Ram Dass often, we used to go swim with Ram Dass in Maui, and he would always say two things to us: don't be afraid, and just always think about the witness. Be the witness instead of, being such a victim of your own whatever. Just be a witness to it. And stare, if you get depressed, stare it in the face until it's gone. Like, don't be afraid of anything. And
that's part of looking in the mirror when you're in yoga class, or when you're brushing your teeth at night. For me, yoga class is when I look in the mirror. So, it's like looking in the mirror and facing your stuff, facing what's happening. Are you looking in the mirror, but a part of you is looking to the left because that woman is doing a better posture than you, or maybe that guy to the right of you is looking at you and you've lost your attention and you notice that you don't like it.
Yeah.
You can point fingers all you want, or you can judge or condemn or compete all you want. That's fine. But if you want to be happy, if you want to begin, the path of enlightenment, then you have to turn your attention inward and really look at yourself. And I know that the one time that I experienced a deeper, I think when people fast, I think that they really experience a deeper sensation of that. And then I'll go into some foods for kids. But I think that, when I did my 22-day water fast, I did 22 days of water.
Wow.
Only. And then
Only?
And then the last 5 days, no water, no food at all. So it was a dry fast. And I was in tears everywhere I went. I just saw God in every single person. And I saw the God in them that they didn't see in themselves. And I saw, the God in myself that I didn't see in myself.
That makes so much sense. You purified yourself to where there was nothing in you that wasn't just real stuff. Yeah. And you got it down. It was simplistic.
Well, and at the time I was partaking in ayahuasca ceremonies, which is psychedelic, work, which I really believe in as a powerful path to where I am, what I've experienced. And that night was the last night of the 22 days, no water, the last 5 days. So after the 22 days of all that, I was in an ayahuasca ceremony, and I was asked to co-host it with a friend of mine. And I had usually 2 cups is usually what I've been used to. Yeah. And this was 5 years ago, the last ceremony I've ever done. I had 5 cups, and I felt nothing. And in that moment, the what I heard was, I don't need it anymore. I have reached a certain place of understanding where I can sit in this feeling and not have to reach farther again for a while.
That's great. Did you ever go to the ayahuasca temple out in Williams by chance?
No. I've worked with a shaman that I recommend that I work with, who comes here once a year, and I set up ceremonies for him and
beautiful
family members and friends. And
well, we are running out of time. I don't mean to cut you off by any means, but I would like to talk about, you were saying about some foods. Yeah, foods for like any mothers listening. DeAnna has some awesome ideas and tips for things that make kids might want to eat healthier.
Yes. So the green juice is a big one. Putting in a little bit of ginger, not too much because it can be spicy for the kids. Lemon, celery, definitely apples, and then you can add some collard greens in there, some cilantro, that's a great one. Make enough for a day or two. I know that usually it's great to have it right when it comes out and it's fresh, but
so you can wake up in the morning and it's all ready for you.
Yeah, right? But at least having it is better than not having it. And so definitely make enough for at least a day. And fruit all day long. Usually if we eat fruit, we do one type of fruit. So if we're doing tangerines, we just do tangerines.
Oh, okay. Because I tend to
mono
mix.
Fruit.
Is there any reason for that? I'm just curious because I eat a lot of mixed fruits.
Yeah, better for the digestion because some fruits are more acidic than others. And so it's just best for the digestion and best for you to properly receive the taste and the energy of just that one. It's kind of like, when you've got, my husband and I call it leaky root syndrome, where you're looking at every woman around. It's like, why look at the oranges and the bananas and the raspberries and the strawberries and the blueberries if you could just look at the oranges?
It's like, again, it's a simplistic thing and it's focus. Yeah. I really appreciate you making the time. And boy, I have to say you're probably my first guest out of 25 shows that the talk went this quickly and this smoothly and this easily.
Oh, great.
No, really. So seriously, thank you. Because usually I'm like looking at the clock a lot going, we got 10 minutes still.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, we've already passed our mark. That's pretty cool. So I really want to thank you out of respect for coming in today and making the time and educating us about healthy eating. And I wish we could talk for hours because I have so many questions. But perhaps when the show comes back on the air, we could do part 2 perhaps.
Yeah.
Because healthy eating is something that so many people need info on. And some of the stuff you've given today has been really golden.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great.
Yeah, and hello to the yogi out there who's not a womanizer any longer. He's eating healthier and he's with a super healthy person. So yeah, DeAnna Larkins. By the way, if people would like to meet you or find out more about yoga, Emerge Hot Yoga is in Ashland, and we can't tell people to go there, but we can certainly offer the information. What is the address for Emerge Hot Yoga?
It's 330 Oak Street.
In Ashland. Kind of by the Video Explorer and the Self-Realization Fellowship place. Again, thanks a lot. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing?
Thank you so much. And just remember the greens. Remember the greens.
I like that. That should be a t-shirt. Remember the greens.
Breathe with the greens.
There you go. All right. DeAnna Larkins is my guest. You are listening to the EARTHEART Radio Show on KSKQ. And I have to say this, any views or opinions expressed are solely those of the host and guest and do not necessarily represent those of KSKQ. It is KSKQ's mission to produce community radio that empowers the residents of the Rogue Valley, builds sustainable and resilient communities through the exchange of ideas and the celebration of cultural diversity. Yay. That was
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
My friends, we do have positive news on the way. I've got some harmonious music lined up also, and we will pay tribute to another high-frequency individual living temporarily in a human body, a.k.a. the Saint Spotlight. But right now, I'd like to play a song that was requested by brother Rick in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's a regular with Kelly. They're tuned in right now, I believe, in Wisconsin. So this is Love from the 1960s with the late, great Arthur Lee and a song called Everybody's Gotta Live. You are at the EARTHEART Radio Show with the band called Love, and Everybody's Gotta Live. Whoa! And everyone's got to interrupt my show. Thank you to DeAnna Larkins for a really great chat, man. That was really fun, talking about healthy eating and something that I'm really interested. I hope you enjoyed that, friends. Locals Guide is proud to be an underwriter of KSKQ. Locals Guide is committed to community building through the creation of positive media. They offer a monthly magazine, mobile travel guides, and visitor information kiosks, which offer timely and accurate local information to people just like you all around the world. KSKQ thanks Locals Guide and listeners like you for supporting community radio.
Gratitude is our attitude. Thanks for tuning in to EARTHEART Radio on KSKQ. Saints, angels, avatars, sages, yogis, holy men, medicine women, helpers, elders, revolutionaries, and advocates of love. Today we honor and show love, respect, and gratitude.
That's right, my friends. I really, really love saints, and I love people that do good things and inspire others. And let me say something right now. It doesn't matter what religion it is. I don't have a religion. I couldn't turn you on to a religion if I tried because I don't have one. I go to the basic core message of all religious and spiritual beliefs, which is love. So if you hear me saying the word Jesus or Krishna or Buddha or whoever, I'm not proselytizing. I'm not trying to say that's what I'm into. I'm saying I'm into all of it, baby. Every bit of it. It's all the same. It's love. We are all trying to get higher up the proverbial mountain. So there is no religion except for love in my book. And today we're paying tribute to a man named Sharan Lahiri, born September 30th, 1828, and best known as Lahiri Mahasaya. He was born into a Brahmin family in Nadia district of Bengal province in India. His mother died when he was a child. She was a devotee of Lord Shiva. At the age of 3 or 4, he was one of 10 seen sitting in meditation with his body buried in the sand up to his neck. As a child, he studied Hindi, gradually moving on to Bengali, Sanskrit, Persian, French, and English at the government Sanskrit college, along with study of the Vedas. Reciting the Vedas, bathing in the Ganges, and worship were part of his daily routine. In 1846, he was married and had 2 sons and 3 daughters. In 1861, his job transferred him to the foothills of the Himalayas. One day, while walking in the hills, he heard a voice calling to him. After climbing further, he met his guru, Mahavatar Babaji, who initiated him into the techniques of Kriya Yoga. Babaji told Lahiri that the rest of his life was to be given to spreading the Kriya message. Soon after, Lahiri Mahasaya returned to Varanasi, where he began initiating sincere seekers into the path of Kriya Yoga. Over time, more and more people flocked to receive Kriya teachings from him. He freely gave Kriya initiation to those of every faith Hindus, Muslims, and Christians at a time when caste bigotry was very strong. He encouraged students to adhere to the tenets of their own faith, adding Kriya techniques to what they were already practicing. He continued his dual role of accountant and supporter to his family and a teacher of Kriya Yoga until 1886, when he retired and was able to see more and more visitors. He seldom left his sitting room available to all who sought his darshan. He often exhibited the breathless state of superconscious samadhi. Some of his notable disciples included Swami Sri Yukteswar and also the parents of Paramahansa Yogananda. He also is said to have initiated Sai Baba of Shirdi into Kriya Yoga. He also printed thousands of small books which had excerpted passages from the Bhagavad Gita in Bengali and Hindu and distributed them for free, a very unusual idea at that time. In 1895, he began gathering his disciples, letting some know that he would soon be leaving his body. Moments before his passing, he simply said, "I am going home. Be comforted. I shall rise again." He then turned his body around 3 times, faced north, and consciously left his body, entering Mahasamadhi. Lahiri Mahasaya died September 26, 1895, 4 days before turning 67. He was cremated according to Hindu Brahmin rites in Varanasi. I would like to read a couple of quotes from the great Lahiri Mahasaya, and one of those quotes is, "Whenever anyone utters the name of Babaji, the devotee attracts an instant spiritual blessing." Another quote from Lahiri Mahasaya, "All time is wasted that is not spent in seeking God." And you know, I have to agree. I've spent a lot of time on this earth, and I've wasted a lot of time looking to the wrong people for the wrong answers. But that's okay, because that's going to change, and that's changing now. I would like to play a song for you. It's called Om Lahiri Mahasaya. It's a cosmic chant, and I hope you enjoy this. Thanks for being at the EARTHEART Radio Show and for listening to KSKQ Radio. We really appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to EarthHeart Radio. Love everyone. Serve the people. Remember God. KSKQ.
Thanks for being at the EarthHeart Radio Show. I'm Derek Moody, a.k.a. Shankara Das. KSKQ recognizes the nonprofit community support of the Klamath-Siskiyou Wildland Center. As a voice for wild nature, KS Wild's mission is focused on protecting public lands in the Klamath-Siskiyou region of Southwest Oregon and Northwest California. Community support for KS Wild helps ensure a legacy of wild rivers, ancient forest, and biodiversity. Learn more about KS Wild's wildlife and forest conservation programs and efforts to restore public lands at kswild.org. My friends, another quote from the great Lahiri Mahasaya. "Always remember that you belong to no one and no one belongs to you. Reflect that someday you will suddenly have to leave everything in this world, so make acquaintanceship of God now." And that is the great Lahiri Mahasaya. KSKQ is having a music benefit Saturday, April the 18th at the Black Sheep Pub and Restaurant in Ashland. 6 acts will be performing: Death Plant, Gene Burnett, The Elephant, Shibo Torres, the music of Frank Ellis, and Living Loving Led Zeppelin Experience, a Led Zeppelin tribute act. Once again, it's April 18th. All proceeds going to KSKQ. It starts at 9 p.m. and ends at midnight. Going to be a real good time. All acoustic music for KSKQ at the Black Sheep Pub on Saturday, April the 18th.
Please let go of your fear. Positive news is here. Things aren't as bad as it seems, no matter what they say. News with an agenda is meant to instill fear. True news can instill hope.
That's right, my friends. It is time for the positive news segment, which we do every week, and I have a few cool stories for you. Positive news number 1, bees are benefiting from hemp pollen as the U.S. produces more and more legal cannabis. That's right, as recreational marijuana is legalized across more and more states, scientists have found an unexpected benefit to the crop craze. Cannabis is helping dwindling bee populations. Yep. Cannabis sativa is an exclusively wind-pollinated plant and thereby creates an abundance of pollen for a variety of bee species. This particular study, published in the journal called Environmental Entomology, recently found evidence of increasing bee diversity and population after they studied the species loitering on hemp flowers across 11 farms in the Finger Lakes region of New York. They found that hemp supported 16 different bee species. Bees residing in marijuana legal states have a pollen-rich resource available to them during a time of year when pollen is scarce. Quote, as cultivation of hemp increases, growers, land managers, and policymakers should consider its value in supporting bee communities and take its attractiveness to bees into account when developing pest management strategies. I wonder if Laura B. knows about that. I bet she does. Positive news story number 2. Monks in Thailand create iconic orange robes from recycled plastic. 40 tons already collected on their own. Helping to relieve suffering in the world is one of the goals of Buddhist teachings that guide followers on their journey from birth to death. And for one Buddhist temple in Thailand, it's not only food, money, and clothing that pilgrims donate to the cause. They bring plastic waste. Despite being a fraction of the size of China, India, and the U.S., Thailand is one of the 5 biggest contributors to plastic pollution on the earth. Thailand is also predominantly Buddhist, and according to Phra Maha Pranam Dhamalankaro, its temple is doing its part to combat the global environmental crisis in line with the teachings of the Buddha. He has turned the Wat Chok Dang Temple, just south of Bangkok, into a recycling mecca. A large recycling machine pulverizes donated plastic bags and bottles and turns them into large bales, which the monks then organize to be shipped off to recycling plants. Once they're broken down, the plastic is turned into polyester fibers, which are then dyed by the monks and turned into their iconic saffron orange robes. Donating 1 kilo of plastic bottles, which is 2.2 pounds, can help make a full set of monk robes, which has a high return value both in terms of money and merits. If you don't collect these plastics, where do they end up? In the stomachs of dolphins and whales and many other sea creatures, unfortunately. My friends, I would like to take us out with a song today. This is Kansas doing a beautiful song called Dust in the Wind at the EARTHEART Radio Show in KSKQ.
All paths lead to getting higher up the proverbial mountain. EARTHEART Radio with Shankara Das on KSKQ.
Thanks for tuning in, my friends. It's the very last EARTHEART show. If you happen to have a new home for KSKQ, let us know. I do have a couple of leads as of today, so I'm going to get off the air here and contact one of our management committee people because I do have a place possible for KSKQ right here in Ashland. Check it out, man. The Cherokee Nation, first U.S. tribe to be invited to preserve their heirloom species in the Global Seed Vault with close to 1 million samples from nearly every country on Earth. The Svalbard Global Seed Vault in the remote Svalbard Island between Norway and the Arctic contains the largest collection of seeds and other plant specimens in the world. Last week, the Cherokee Nation became the first Native American tribe to receive an invitation to contribute seeds of their own heirloom crops and to join the effort to ensure biodiversity and food security in the uncertain centuries ahead. That's so beautiful. Thanks for tuning in. I do assure you I will return with the EARTHEART Radio Show just as soon as KSKQ finds a new home. Much love to each and every one of you, and blessings.
You've been listening to EARTHEART Radio with your host, Shankara Das. Earth Heart Radio is produced by Shankara Das in association with Sister Tracy and Krishna Consciousness. Please tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more Earth Heart Radio.